Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining Gartner's Top Innovation Trends in Government webinar, the 2025 Ion Innovation Award Insights by Robert Stoneman, Arthur Mikolat, Bill Finnerty, and Sahir Mohad. On the black bar at the bottom of the Zoom window, you'll see two buttons, one for chat and one for Q&A. If you have any technical questions, please send us a message directly by selecting host and panelist through the chat function. If you have any questions about content, please use the Q&A function. We will reserve time at the end of the presentation to answer as many questions as possible. This session is being recorded, and the deck and recording will be available on Gartner.com, as well as emailed to all attendees within 48 hours after the session. And then one quick housekeeping note before we begin. This is from our lawyers, which basically says we won't break any laws today. So we'll now begin the presentation, and I'd like to hand this over to Robert, Arthur, Bill, and Sahir.
Thank you, Kristen. And firstly, just want to say a welcome to today's webinar. Really exciting one where we get to celebrate ultimately what you ultimately are doing in terms of innovative uses of technology. Firstly, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Rob Stone, and I'm Senior Director Analyst within the Gartner Government team. And I'll just hand over to my colleagues to introduce themselves as well.
Hello, everyone. Bill Finnerty. I'm a VP Analyst and Team Manager for Gartner on our Public Sector team.
And well, I'm Director Analyst Arthur Mikolat, working also on digital government in that same team and having the initiative of leading our key initiatives around digital government.
Thanks, Arthur. And Sahir, who sadly can't be joining us today, will be joining us via the magic of technology as part of this to help to introduce the APAC region. But I will just move forward to firstly say a little bit about the awards ceremony themselves. So firstly, again, I just want to welcome you all to what again is a really exciting time of year. I always look forward to getting a chance to celebrate the really exciting, innovative work that governments are doing and celebrate ultimately what is really world-leading work in terms of uses of technology by governments to meet really the key mission-critical priorities that you're focusing on. And it's been a long 9-month journey to get here. And this is for us, not just our chance to think about the themes and the general trends we're seeing from the 268 innovations that you've submitted. But most importantly, it's our chance to announce not just the finalists and celebrate the finalists, but announce the winners for each of our regions as well. Now, I'm always quite amazed by the sheer breadth and depth of the entries that we get every year as we go through these. And as you know, by virtue of attending today's ceremony, many of you will no doubt be actively thinking about how you can push how technology is being used in your own organization, how you can think about other use cases, new innovative ways of using technology. And I think that's great from a public sector lens because there is a view out there that is, I think, fairly common to an extent that the public sector is disinclined in some way to explore innovative uses of technology and can be overly cautious and at times risk averse. And I think we can see today that there is a degree of pushback on that. And I think it's also worth remembering that the public sector, in a way, is in quite a beneficial position when it comes to managing the balance between caution and innovation, because we can also benefit by looking to what is going on in other industries, remembering that innovation is occurring in lots of other places other than government. And in many cases, the citizen expectations of tomorrow are really being driven by experimentation in some cases, what is going on in parts of the private sector in other industries where there is, to an extent, a degree of expectation around risk that is a bit more lenient, say, than in the public sector. So for those looking to see, where some of the innovative public services, the trends are headed in the future, my first key takeaway is don't just look what is going on in government. Sure, keep a close view on what peers are doing. I'm sure many of you are already starting to push the boundaries as to what you can do within the sector, but look to other sectors, and the Gartner AI Innovation Awards across the other sectors that we cover are a really, really good place to start and do this. However, today we are primarily here to celebrate our government finalists and to announce our regional winners across APAC, across EMEA, and across the Americas. This year saw 11 finalists from across 9 different countries across our 3 regions. So firstly, we want to thank every organisation that submitted all of the 268 entries. And though many have missed out on a spot as a finalist, we really do encourage you to consider next year's awards, details of which will be shared at the end of this webinar. We also want to spend a moment to thank our 17 judges. The Gartner AI Innovation Awards are a combinational effort between both our industry experts, whom are instrumental in validating and selecting our finalists. However, the selection of all of our winners is ultimately down to our external judges. Each of our judges has many years of experience working across government, wider public sector, helping to deliver technology in support of organisational priorities. And their experience covers a real broad range of sectors across government, from central government departments and agencies, local government, defence, and public safety and justice, just to name a few areas. And when judging, no judge is able to score in their own region. All finalists are judged anonymously. So this ensures that we're able to maintain as much impartiality as possible when selecting the winners. So again, we want to thank our 17 judges for the key role that they make in making these awards possible ultimately. And again, those who think potentially they would make a good judge for next year's awards, I would certainly wait around till the end of the ceremony where we'll share some more details. Now, before announcing our first winner, we just want to quickly explore some of the key themes that emerged from this year's awards process. So what is clear is that a significant of the submissions that we get through to the Iron Innovation Awards are, well, when asked what mission or opportunity prompted their innovation, their project or program, many clearly indicated they started out targeting operational inefficiencies within their organization. Now, this makes sense because many public sector organizations across the globe are continuing to operate in tough budgetary environments with lots of pressure on internal staff and indeed problems with staff retention and skills access. But they're also dealing with significant, if slightly waning, hype around the role that AI will play in enabling greater efficiencies. So I think what's remarkable when we look here is that at least when setting out, many really didn't cite things like poor customer or citizen experience, which are actually tend to be really key areas that the governments are concerned with when we go out and speak to our government clients. And I would bear this in mind in a moment when we explore some of the tangible outcomes that actually came from a lot of the award submissions once they were seen through to completion. In the meantime, however, just to focus a little bit on the technologies that we used, and in this case, just looking at our 11 finalists to see what they were looking at in terms of the technologies they used as part of their submissions. Well, it's clear that the vast majority have applied some form of AI and data and analytics capabilities as part of their approach. And what's interesting, though, is that as part of this, large language models, Gen AI more broadly, they apply to a far smaller proportion of entries. And I think this signals that while Gen AI it has been obviously been the driving much of the hype around AI more broadly in recent years, but many of the most innovative use cases we've seen have actually used other AI techniques and indeed other technologies to achieve success. So another key takeaway here is that government CIOs should really expect to combine not just Gen AI and LLMs, but also things like non-generative machine learning, rules-based systems, other AI techniques to deliver robust solutions, and indeed should be combining these even when they're just thinking about AI with more foundational technology and organizational improvements. And this includes focusing on more foundational aspects like consolidating fragmented data sets, unifying business processes, and integrating previously isolated systems across various agencies, departments, or indeed other private sector entities that are partners with government. So, for instance, in one of the finalists that we've seen, the organization was able to combine AI-based forecasting, IoT utility meter integration, real-time GIS, ERP, and other relevant systems integrated into a modern urban water service that was part of a fully integrated public water platform. And we're able to deliver some really, really great outcomes from that we'll see later on. Now, going back to my initial point about what many of our entrants set off to achieve through their innovative projects and programs at the start, well, when they actually go on to measure the quantitative outcomes that actually matter, it's interesting that improving employee productivity, time savings, and process automation, or optimization, I should say, while still important, they were less of a focus than improving the accuracy or quality of services or improving digital adoption more generally. So if we drill down into that and think a little bit about some of the examples, the really tangible examples that we've seen, well, in one example, we saw solutions cutting clinical trial assessment time by 35% and reducing the time spent on a counterfeit drug investigation from 30 to as little as 3 hours. And another example, we saw the frequency of fires drop by over 50% over a 4-year period, and average mission time in terms of dispatch for fire vehicles reducing down to 16.5 minutes, and the fire control time dropping by nearly a whole minute as part of that. So again, fine margins to an extent, but really powerful outcomes that are really rooted in key mission critical priorities for those organizations, not simply chasing, say, productivity savings in a general sense that may not, when push comes to shove, actually really deliver tangible value. But that's just a few of the top line trends. We will publish an additional analysis that delves into these in due course. So let's get on to the main event, which is ultimately our chance to celebrate our finalists and, most importantly, the winners of the Gartner 2025 Iron Innovation Awards for Government. And to start this, I will virtually at least hand over to my colleague Sahir Mahmood, who's Senior Principal Analyst within the government team, and she's going to take us through both the finalists and the winners for the APAC region. So I will pass over to you.
Thank you, Robert. Before we announce the finalists and the winner, let's
I think the audio just dropped.
Okay, that's fine.
take a look at what the judges said about the entries. Here are some quotes on your screen. A strong alignment was observed between the technology deployed and the solution that was sought. Scalability is critical with any innovation, and the judges highlighted this potential seen across many entries. Government AI pilots should be designed for broad scalability and replication to prevent wasted resources and reputational risk. It also ensures support for future initiatives. Another key theme observed in this year's entries has been the ability to merge together several complicated technologies. It has been seen that governments that combine different AI techniques and other technologies deliver more measurable citizen impact. Now, let me share the details of the finalists in no particular order. The first is the Connected Firefighter Program from the Fire and Rescue Department of New South Wales. This program was in response to the 2019-2020 Black Summer bushfires, which destroyed communication infrastructure in the region, leaving firefighters isolated and unable to coordinate or communicate. The Connected Firefighter Program designed and built a digital ecosystem of connected technologies, leveraging multiple technologies, providing resilient, seamless, and reliable connectivity across multiple devices for over 6,800 firefighters. The second is the Fire Prevention and Firefighting Safety Plan by the Taoyuan City Fire Department. With its high industrial density, Taoyuan City faced significant fire risks, averaging 118 industrial and warehouse fires between 2020 and 2024 annually. This naturally caused substantial financial losses and casualties. The project leverages a combination of technologies and public-private collaboration to enhance safety, efficiency, and a better allocation of resources. The next is the Integrated Real-Time AI Traffic Signal Control Revolution by the Transportation Department at the Taoyuan City Government. The city aimed to replace static signal systems with adaptive AI-driven networks to enhance traffic flow and prioritize emergency vehicles. Last but not the least, the Krung Thai Bank PCL, Thailand, which undertook the initiative to provide free medication for minor ailments for beneficiaries via the digital health wallet feature in the National Pautang app. This integrates an AI symptom checker so that users can assess symptoms and receive instant guidance to nearby participating pharmacies for free medications. And the winner is the Integrated Real-Time AI Traffic Signal Control Revolution by the Transportation Department at the Taoyuan City Government. Heartiest congratulations to the winners. Let's take a look at the challenge faced and the solution and outcomes of this winning entry. The Taoyuan City faced serious urban challenges, including traffic congestion, air pollution, and delayed emergency responses due to rapid population growth and very complex traffic conditions. The city aimed to replace static signal systems with adaptive AI-driven networks to enhance traffic flow and prioritize emergency vehicles. Over 120 AI CCTV cameras and 26 sensors were deployed at 91 key city intersections. These use YOLO object recognition and edge computing for instant traffic analysis and signal adjustment, all powered by reinforcement learning. The outcomes are impressive. There has been an increase in out-of-hospital cardiac arrest survival rates by 8%. Travel time has reduced by 5 to 8%, and the average waiting time on signals cut by 19%. Annually, this has saved 32 hours of idling, 49,000 liters of fuel, and reduces carbon dioxide by a whopping 111 tons annually. So congratulations once again to the winners. And with that, Robert, it's back to you from my side. Thank you.
Thanks, Sahir. And again, congratulations to Taoyuan City Government. And now, moving on to the EMEA region, I will hand over to Arthur Mikolaj, Director Analyst and our Key Initiative Leader within the government team as well. Arthur, over to you.
Thanks, for sure. Thank you, Robert. And thanks also, Sahir, for introducing the APAC winner. My turn now towards EMEA, so nice region, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, of course. Let's hear a little bit what the judges said about some of the EMEA contributions. So definitely something that we see is a dominant theme or a very prominent theme in government submissions to this year's award is productivity increases. Robert talked about operational efficiencies. And the judges indeed talked about impressive gains on review times of one of the finalists we're going to hear in a moment. But also, not just the operational efficiencies increased, but also great innovation itself in that specific case. Another voice, another judge who was talking about a great project that was basically executed under significant financial constraints. And as we know, of course, across the EMEA region, there's a number of governments acting under severe financial constraints at the moment. And so the pressure is definitely there to do more with less. And as we will see, some of the EMEA finalists also definitely focus on that. Let's head over to the finalists then. Same as before, no particular order. Let's start with case number 1. Case number 1 is the TAM AI assistant from the Emirate of Abu Dhabi in the UAE. Some of you might know TAM. It's been around for a while. TAM is a platform for government services. It's omni-channel, meaning that as a citizen, as a resident, you can get most things done no matter which channel you choose. The app, the web portal, a service, or a call center. And this year's innovation focuses on an important addition because since 2024, TAM has an AI assistant too. You can talk to that AI assistant in over 50 languages, something very important for the UAE with many nationalities. And that AI assistant is also connected to payment systems, to services like a digital document storage. All this creates an end-to-end experience in many areas of public service delivery. And so that assistant is one of our finalists, is an important addition to the citizen experience across the TAM platform in Abu Dhabi. Let's move on to case number 2 then. Yeah, thank you. Case number 2 is Smart Water 360 for the urban water systems in Istanbul. Istanbul, of course, not just the biggest city in Turkey, but it's also a major metropolis, full stop. 16 million people after all. And so Smart Water 360 has been a huge upgrade to the city's water and sewage services, so vital infrastructure. The initiative covers integration of older legacy IT systems as well as newer IT systems. It covers operational technologies like smart water meters. And of course, it covers a lot of new services and capabilities on top of those platforms. Citizens can, for example, track water usage in real time, which honestly is not something that I'm able to do in my city. You can get bills and updates through apps and SMS, and you can sign contracts digitally. So besides that huge convenience, that I need to recognize for millions of residents, this system in Istanbul also makes things quicker when it comes to processes from payments all the way to fixing faults in the water infrastructure. Moving on to case number 3. That's the digital procurement and SpendQ platform by the Digital Government Authority in Saudi Arabia. So we're talking here about a centralized system for streamlining the way that government IT procurement is reviewed and approved. The DGA, the Digital Government Authority, used different technologies, including mature AI, to automate the review process, to make it faster, to make it more accurate, but, and that's important, to also help to improve the quality of procurement and procurement outcomes. So you've got benefits on the operational side, like reducing time and administrative friction, but also improving procurement of IT and digital initiatives across national government. And then we move to case number 4. And case number 4 comes from the UK's Cafcass. Cafcass is part of the social services system in the UK. It's a government organization that represents the interests of children and young people in family courts. And what they've submitted is Scribe. Scribe is a tool that helps social workers create personalized letters for the nearly 140,000 children that Cafcass supports. So it used to be generic letter templates that social workers manually filled in. And Scribe now takes information from their case management systems and actually tailors letters for the individual child and the individual case. As you can imagine, this is incredibly important because it helps children and their families to see through the legalese, to understand where their case currently is in the courts system. And it does leave the human in the loop because the caseworkers receive suggested letters from Scribe, but it's still the caseworkers who finalize and send those letters. I think 4 quite diverse cases in their scope, also in their geography. And so let's move on to unveil the winner. And the winner is the Digital Procurement and SpendCube platform from Saudi Arabia. Congratulations to the Digital Government Authority, DGA, on this big improvement to ICT procurement across national government. This winner is a bit different from previous years, where the focus has often been on citizen-facing innovations. But like we already mentioned now a couple of times during this webinar, there's a big focus also on productivity, on efficiencies, and this year the jury voted in favor of an innovation that is related to procurement. And it makes sense. In a lot of countries around EMEA, budget spending, budget controls are being enacted. But there's also more to that. There's a wide understanding across government that procurement needs to support innovation. The problem is, it does not always do so because the procurement processes tend to be rigid. And that was the case in this year's winner. So previously, reviewing an RFP, a request for proposals by a ministry or an agency, was manual and it created significant delays. On average, we were talking about 20 days to complete a single review, and that slowed down important digital projects across government. Now, to address this, what did the DGA do? They built a digital platform with a high degree of automation to support the review process for any IT procurement happening at the national government. In this process, in the development of the platform, they included different AI technologies and other technologies, OCR for text recognition or text extraction, natural language processing for structuring the texts, machine learning for classification and assessment of the different proposals. And this is important because they used mostly mature technologies. That means less risk, more proven value compared to some of the emerging or hyped technologies like AI agents. The platform also uses a SpendCube. That's basically a multi-dimensional data view on procurement, and that SpendCube can be used by the platform for analysis and assessment of the different, RFPs. And yes, the results convinced our jury. They reduced procurement review times. So the review of the actual proposals and RFPs, that was reduced from 20 days to 7 days. Now think about it. We're talking about 3 weeks down to 1 week. So this has been, and I'm sure will be, a major accelerator to the digital transformation and the digital transformation initiatives across the public sector. It's important cost savings directly to the DGA because of reducing administrative overhead But it's also indirectly cost savings on the individual entities, the sectors, the agencies, by accelerating the project delivery there. And of course, it's improved compliance and a reduction in errors all across the process. So all in all, I would say definitely a major step forward in public procurement, not only speed and agility and productivity, but also helping to improve the outcomes of public procurement, because the individual departments as well as the DGA can really focus more on the strategic objectives than on the routine checks. Congratulations again, and over to you, Robert.
Thanks, Arthur. And again, congratulations to the Digital Government Authority on being our EMEA winner. So now moving over, and obviously last but certainly no means least, to the Americas. And for that, I will hand over to Bill Finnerty. Bill, over to you.
Thank you, Robert. Really appreciate that. And thanks everybody who's listening in, our nearly 100 participants that are signed on and paying attention to these great examples of innovation in government. So let's take a look, first of all, at the region here. So as we consider the region, we're talking the Americas from north to south, and we had some great judges that participated in the jury. Once again, many, many thanks to them for their time and their effort. It is a pleasure to be able to get to work with them. And I thought there was two really interesting quotes or points that they made in the discussion or the back and forth between us and them. And the first one was about the idea of the projects and short-term thinking. And in particular, one project that was looking at a 7 years down the road or down the line, as it was stated, to overcome that challenge we have of thinking within budget cycles or political cycles within the public sector, and how when we can move beyond that, we can have such a tremendous impact. And then the second one here, the second quote from our judges, really looks around the idea of AI. And we often have this conversation when we're doing inquiry, when we're having conversation presentations that we're giving, even conversations amongst each other, where the conversation is, we want to talk about Gen AI, or we want to talk about AI. Right? The reality is, as Robert stated earlier, in the end, AI is one of the technologies that gets used, and it's the combinatorial nature of that with other AI and other technologies, including, in one case here, some relatively ordinary off-the-shelf type of hardware that can make huge differences. And that's where you, as the technologists that are leading these government organizations, are able to bring such value as you combine the partners you have and the different types of technologies and the pieces of your platform to be able to deliver great value. So let's take a look, Robert, at our finalists here, please. And we're going to take a look at these from north to south, and we have 3 finalists in this region. The first finalist comes from the MTA in New York City. And the MTA submitted a award nomination for their New York City Transit Track Inspection Initiative. This particular initiative is a pioneering leap for subway track maintenance in what is the nation's busiest transit system. They faced a significant challenge on maintenance for tracks as the existing processes for inspecting them were infrequent and they were very manual. There are a few, particularly or especially built cars with all sorts of different technologies on them that are used to travel throughout the train system and be able to collect data. And there are a couple times a week when they have individuals go out and do inspections. But the reality is, given the number of miles, the amount of usage over those tracks, that really is insufficient. So the MTA worked with partners to be able to retrofit existing subway cars with commodity hardware, leveraging AI and cloud technologies to automate the collection and analysis of over 1 million data points as part of their improved inspection process. Our second nomination, our finalist, comes from the U.S. Department of, comes from Banco Central do Brazil. And with that, their Access GPT. So obviously, I'm not going north to south. I jumped in where I was at there. But the Access GPT initiative is transforming the way that this organization does financial supervision through the use of cutting-edge AI. It addresses a significant challenge they face with having to analyze over 1,400 independent audit reports every 6 months. Access GPT leverages large language models to automate the extraction, analysis, and reporting of regulatory information from these unstructured documents, freeing up tremendous amounts of time and allowing people to focus on the more significant challenges where their expertise, their experience drives the greatest amount of value for the public. And then our third finalist here is, as I already stated, the U.S. Department of State and their Shared Knowledge Services program. And this program has pioneered a transformative approach to declassifying diplomatic cables that leverages AI to address the unprecedented surge in records requiring review. They estimated that with exponential growth or exponential increase in their workload, that by 2031, they were going to have to be looking at 650,000 cables, diplomatic cables, every year. And so they wanted to come up with a better way of being able to review these in an efficient manner. And so the team implemented and enhanced an AI-driven solution that automates and accelerates the declassification process. So those three finalists are amongst a large number of really great projects that were submitted, and the jury came up with these three as our finalists. And our winner is MTA from New York City. Congratulations. The subway track maintenance program is a significant step forward for one of the busiest rail lines in the world, and certainly in the US. So let's take a look at this in greater depth. And first of all, the challenges. I mentioned previously that track maintenance was a challenge and critical challenge that this organization faced. And frequently, they felt that they had not done enough through their existing processes of using those specialized diagnostic equipment on trains and their twice weekly visual inspections to ensure that the tracks were as safe and operational as possible. And this whole process they had lacked consistent, timely, and automated signals for emerging track issues relating or then causing breakdowns and other challenges they face that could have been addressed through predictive means. And for anyone that's ever been stuck on a subway train, you know, those types of things, that's not exactly the most fun part of your day. So how did they do this? So their solution, they retrofitted a number of different subway cars with commercial grade phones, off-the-shelf technology, and AI that was able to be used to take the tools that are built inside of those and some other pieces, including GPS location, vibration, accelerometers, etc., to be able to collect or to transmit over 300 million data points and 1,200 hours of audio to the cloud in just 11 weeks. It was an incredibly fast project that they went through, particularly in the building of the data, the building of the models that allowed them to be able to jump forward. They took some risks in that, something that, as Robert pointed out earlier, not all government innovation programs are willing to do, but the gains have been huge. And this has helped the maintenance team to diagnose issues that disrupt these services daily for individuals. And the outcomes here, really big numbers, right? So the model identified 92% of nonconformity locations found by traditional track inspections. So through this automated process, 92% of the time, they're able to get those same things that they were going through other more expensive means to accomplish, allowing, once again, the people in this case, to be able to focus on those more significant challenges, those more unique situations that they had to deal with. Additionally, they were able to, in just 6 weeks, train the model up to almost 60% accuracy or precision. Now, 6 weeks for training them out is an incredibly rapid time. By continuing to work on that model and continuing to look at other data points or adding additional data points and additional work in there, that will continue to grow in that accuracy, be able to help them to continue to drive value forward. And finally, through analysis of the remaining false positives, there was a number of different indicators developing issues that were undetectable from visual inspections. So they were able to actually bring out new value streams here, where they were not just replacing what people were able to do previously, but they're actually discovering new opportunities for being able to drive value. Great project, huge impact on not only the operations, or not only the people that operate the transit system, but also all of those riders. So once again, congratulations to MTA for this incredible work that you've done. Really appreciate the efforts there. And with that, Robert, I'll throw it back to you.
Thanks, Bill. And again, congratulations to the MTA, and indeed, congratulations to all three of our finalists, Taiyuan City, the DGA, and the MTA as well. Three really great, and in many cases, quite different examples of innovation. And again, congratulations to all of our finalists. It's always tough when we get feedback from the judges trying to pick between these. So again, all of our finalists, really thankful for them to submit as part of this year's awards. But again, congratulations to our winners. So just as a bit of a wrap up then, I mean, I think for me, there really are some really good next steps that hopefully you can take as you start to think about how to use innovation and some of these examples and maybe some of the thinking that has come behind them in your next steps, your potential pilots, your potential use cases for things like AI or indeed other technologies. Well, this week, we would certainly recommend understanding what innovation use cases we've looked at today, but also other examples that we have on Gartner.com. We have 22 AI-related use cases from this year's awards just alone, as well as a separate note that deals with use cases from last year's award as well. So certainly worthwhile looking at that, noting what others are doing, and then using that example, some of the other research that we have to potentially launch some education campaigns internally to showcase what sort of the art of the possible effectively when it comes to innovative uses of technology, and to challenge stakeholders to explore the sort of outcomes that you can get from that. But thinking about that slightly more into pushing out towards the long term, well, next week you can start to think about or rethink your technology strategy in the context of emerging technologies. I mean, Gartner has hype cycles. We have all sorts of AI use case research that can help to do that, to help to contextualize that. Also define your current portfolio of capabilities. What can you do at the moment? Where are the gaps? Where are the areas where services, citizen-facing services especially, are falling down, are not meeting expectations? Where might some sort of innovative pilot really be able to add some real value? Pushing out to 90 days, you can start to draw out the detail of this, leading some gap analysis, evaluating the need for changes that are aligned with business and mission outcomes, and then planning steps to be able to close those gaps, and thinking about how that might impact your strategy, your thinking as you look to hopefully form more of an adaptive strategy over the coming years, one that is not necessarily set in stone and then left and forgotten about, but one that is constantly thinking about how new innovative uses of technology can help to meet your goals. And then pushing out even further, you can think about initiating vendor evaluation process, thinking about demos, presentations, suitable vendors that could be good partners to help you with some of these sorts of pilots and programs. Again, most of the examples we've seen today, they have all involved, to some extent, a partnership with industry, partnership with other organizations looking to help to meet those really important outcomes that our entrants are looking to achieve. And finally, 12 months out and beyond, thinking about, well, okay, taking these pilots, taking these examples of innovation and thinking about, well, how might that impact my IT model, my operating model, and the sort of adjustments we might need to do that, and how do we take what is ultimately separate individual pilots and innovation programs and start to pull that together into more of a long-term plan for how we can scale those pilots out and scale that innovation to make sure that these aren't just one-offs, these aren't just minor benefits, but ultimately can really, really start to help us to properly transform how we're delivering public services. So again, I just want to thank everybody, firstly, for attending today. Thank you to all of our finalists. Thank you to our winners. Before we move on to some questions, I just want to say about next year, the Iron Innovation Awards, it's been 9 months, more than 9 months. It's been a long road, but we are very, very close to starting again for next year. If anybody is interested in entering a potential innovation or something that maybe missed out this year or something that could be pushing into next year, I really would keep a firm lookout for details early in the new year around the date for when submissions open. We don't have a firm date at the moment, but very early in 2026, we will be opening that up again to another year's worth of entrants. And again, on the judging side, if you, as an experienced technology executive in government, think you'd be a really good candidate to help to judge these examples, again, reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to speak to you and potentially to have you as a judge. So to know more, you can use the link on screen, or you can even just type Iron Innovation Awards for Government into your search engine. You'll get through to the right page. You'll get the information there. Everything, FAQs is published there, and that will be where we first let everyone know about what our plans are for the coming year. So again, a big thank you to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'll now hand back to Kristen, and we can look to see if we have any questions and any further discussion.
All right, thank you, Robert. So we will now enter Q&A. At the bottom of your Zoom window, there is a Q&A box where you can enter relevant questions to the presentation, and we will answer them. And we already actually have a few questions, so I will go ahead and kick us off. First one being, how is AI changing service delivery in government?
Who wants to take that
Well,
one?
I can certainly jump in on that one. We've got a tremendous amount of research coming out in the next few months around citizen experience. We did a really amazing study of roughly 6,000 individuals around the globe on their experience of working with government services. And it's interesting to me, as you look at where they're at today, constituents are willing to engage and willing to consider future interactions with chatbots, virtual assistants, those types of tools. But up to this point, their experience and their uses, it hasn't been great. It's been fairly minimal. And so they haven't gone back, but they're open to the idea. So I think it's important that we take that as governments, you take a look at those bots that you're creating, those opportunities, and replicating spots where people struggle to use those tools to be able to get to the right answers, to be able to complete their services, isn't helping the case for the investments. Most CIOs, according to the Gartner's 2026 CIO survey, are increasing their investments in chatbots and virtual assistants for the use with public services. But at this point, the challenge there is getting them right. And how do you consider your human-centered design capabilities, the way you do service design, the way you do privacy design and security by design, and incorporate that into the overall way that you're using those new channels? And also, how are you going to get feedback on them? Because we know that there's lots of different ways to measure feedback from constituents. We know the most popular way, of course, in government is to look at satisfaction scores. Not always although popular, not always the best channel. And Dean LeChuck, like I said, will have some research coming out in that particular space as well, or not the best metric, I should say. But that's one area. I think the other really interesting area is going to be the next step down the road. And when we start to look at agents and the rise of AI agents and consider how is that going to change the way that people interface with government services. And the use of AIs and the agent experience is going to be a whole nother level that we've all got to be dealing with. So I think there's some really interesting stuff going on today in that area, and then really lots of changes coming in the near future.
Thanks, Bill. It looks like next question is, we want to innovate, even have the political direction to do so, but struggle to scale anything we try. What are governments doing to create innovative programs that deliver over and over?
Well, I can comment on this one because we're seeing governments, investing in innovation more and more. We've seen it today in these individual cases. But there's a lot of government organizations that struggle with the beginnings of innovation. You need to kick it off because governments are by design or by DNA not really driving innovation. They're more concerned with stability, continuity, resilience. But innovation has really become a critical piece of sustainability in government services. Challenges become more complex. You need to innovate in order to address them. And we had great cases of innovation here today. Some of them might have come out of a hackathon, a lab, an ideas challenge. We see these things really occurring across governments. But the big problem that governments often face is, how do you repeat that? A hackathon, a lab, an ideas challenge. You want to get out of those isolated pockets and actually scale and repeat innovation. Think a little bit like, your innovation, the things that we've seen today is a little bit like generative AI. You're amazed when you see it. But when you want to replicate or scale it, that's where things become difficult. That's the same for innovation. And there's a place then for mature technologies, proven processes to repeat and scale innovation. And there's some fundamental mechanics that we've identified over the years of how you can, create a pipeline of innovation within your agency, within your government, that starts from ideation to the selection of ideas that should be incubated, from a selected ideas that are being incubated and that provide value through minimum viable products, through prototyping and so on. Then you move into scaling. So you'd see it's this mix of amazing people with new stuff, but also grounding your innovation program in really tangible challenges and having a process that allows to channel, for example, use of technologies towards those challenges. That's something that we see more in government. It's encouraging, but we also see there's still a lot to do, and happy to help and have conversations on this.
Great, thank you, Arthur. Looks like we have another question. Do you see any change due to the current world situation in view of the current American administration to the strategy of digital innovation in government agencies?
I can touch on this one. So yes, we certainly are seeing concern, particularly in certain parts of the world versus others. I mean, I'm based in the UK. I can say that based on the conversations I have, there is less concern, say, here than there is, say, in parts of continental Europe or parts of the Middle East, or indeed parts of APAC. I think, for me, a lot of the question here comes down to almost the traditional view of sovereignty as we think about it. We tend to think about it in terms of our cloud, or sovereign cloud, or certain particular areas, but not necessarily say, when we think about AI, well, what about the sovereignty of our models, the suitability of our models to be able to actually understand the context that we are operating in a particular place, and that can be as simple as getting answers back from a simple LLM that is contextually aware of a particular culture or a particular language. So, and that's not to think even about the further depth of the technology stack there and everything that underpins that. So certainly, this is something that the governments are thinking about. We're seeing places like in Europe where there are attempts to have sovereign AI technologies that are geared toward particular nations, particular parts of Europe, for instance. I think we will continue to see more of that being driven, particularly where there is that broader agenda. Again, in places like Europe, where you have things like the Eurostack initiative, which is driving at least a kind of broader interest from the EU side into creating a full stack degree of sovereignty for the continent, even if I think in reality that would be very difficult to achieve, at least in the medium term or short and medium term, certainly, but even in the longer term, that will be quite challenging. But certainly an area where we are seeing interest.
And think about it. It doesn't need to be kind of, one directional only. Think about, what you just mentioned, digital public infrastructure investments in Asian countries, European countries. Some of them are more concerned about sovereignty. Some of them are more concerned about resilience and efficiency so that people can use digital identity, digital payments, and so on, and get public services more easily. There's a lot of GovTech innovation happening. Some of it geared more towards this digital sovereignty angle, some more geared towards traditional citizen experience angles.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Arthur, you mentioned the digital public infrastructure side, because again, that was a terminology that really, where I'm based in the UK, has been almost lacking or very little reference to it. But we have started to see in even just the last year or so that start to seep into the what we're hearing from government, even in a place that ostensibly is nowhere near as concerned about sovereignty as, say, parts of continental Europe. So yeah, interesting that despite even where there are, say, the sovereignty concerns are milder, that concern around DPI is certainly gaining sway.
All right. It looks like that was our last question. So Q&A is wrapped up. Thank you all for submitting your questions. If you want to hit the next slide, Robert.
Yep, there we are. Sorry, it was just frozen on me for a second. There we are.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining today's webinar and everyone who submitted an entry for this year's awards. And thank you, Robert, Arthur, Bill, and Tahir for the excellent presentation today. For those of you joining, you'll receive a follow-up email with today's slides along with the replay link for the webinar and a link to schedule any further inquiry as well. Thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.